Well, good morning. Life Life Enhancement Training, L.E.T. Hello, I'm Dr. Michael Fisher. I'm the founder of this program. And just last night, the exciting part was we finally had a chance to launch the program in a community in Calgary, Dover, in the southeast. About 15 people showed up for the introductory night. Purpose was to really just introduce who I am, what the program's about, and then people could make their choices about whether they want to continue with the program, as in making classes and a commitment to taking classes. This video, a short one, I will attempt to replay in a way some of what came out last night. It's a very emergent curriculum, so I don't have like a long-term canned plan here. And I want to give this and make it available to not only anybody who wants to look at it on the internet, but especially for the people who came last night and or people they know that they may want to show it to friends. And the vision I have is to teach these basic skills and reinforce them. That's why I'm doing this video, to reinforce the skills I taught last night. Even though it was just an intro, we actually did do some fairly important skills. But the idea is to pass it on, right? Pass the gift on that has come to me in my life of, a long career of many careers of learning how to bring about the process of liberation of human beings on this planet and to be in good relations with this planet. Pass on that gift, and then this could be passed on through the video and through people's learning. To remember, I'm an educator, I'm a therapist in background as well, and I have lots of other backgrounds which I won't go into. They're all available in my bio, is on the internet. You can have a look at it and so on. I'm going to be using the whiteboard for the teaching here for a bit, so be prepared. Let me just see if I can find it. All right. So yeah, it was a good evening. It really went quite well, I thought. Just get my drawing tool out here, text tool. So I want to talk about the title first, and what that means a little bit to me. So first thing to notice is capital L. Capital L, obviously standing for life here, and small l. And the theme last night, I said, is balance. And I'll come to that in a few different ways. So the basic idea was that this life enhancement training program is to bring big life to support small life. And the small life is your life, right? That's the part that is the me. That's the part that's my and mine, often called the I perspective. So that's the most simple for us to get, because we all know that we are a person and a personality, and we have an I perspective on things. And what I'm suggesting that our I perspective, as important it is only one of three. So I'll get the drawing tool out here. So this I perspective. In the program design behind Life Enhancement Training, the I perspective is one perspective. And that's the one we're most easily familiar with. But the actual design of this program is what I call integral or holistic. And that's because I add two more perspectives to this. The I perspective also needs, for balance, That's that key term that I was teaching last night, is the we. So when we came in last night, I sat us all in a circle, 15 people sitting around a circle. Instead of, the typical lecture kind of base, I had us all basically coming into a circle, which for me, I said was symbolic of the very importance and design of this program. And that is to basically put us in a sense of equal in a certain way, although we're all different. And from each of those positions, one is going to be in that I perspective. So we have many I's, and yet at the same time, we have something called a we perspective, because that's the group. And that is, so we're thinking about taking care of ourselves, as I said, in this program, Life Enhancement Training, but we're also interested in the life of the group. It's both and, right? So it's I plus we perspectives. And the one I didn't talk about last night, and I want to reinforce, is the third pillar of the design, which really gives the three legs of the chair here, and that is the it perspective. This is sometimes called first person perspective, second person perspective, where I care about you, I care about the we, the us. And the third perspective is, in fact, if I was to draw it, it would encompass all of that entire frame. Okay, so that one out here is the it perspective. Well, what is that? Well, that's exactly the capital L, life. That's about as big as you can get. In certainly in a human being, we could even, maybe draw a bigger perspective, which would be the universe, the cosmos, which we know, supposedly know. There's not a lot of life that we know on. There's something very unique that's happened on Earth. Perhaps there's life out there on other planets, but we do know for a fact, there are some facts, life is here on planet Earth. And so that is the it perspective, which is taking this perspective from a life point of view. Okay? So the small L and big L idea in this program was, and this is how I sort of explained it very briefly, was when we're often hurting, this I perspective, or which is the little L, my life, right? And the I perspective here. So that goes with the little life. These two hook up together. And so everything starts to become a little universe of when I'm hurting, right? So when there's hurt going on, and we all get hurt, and we all have been hurt, there's no use in denying that. And we carry those hurts until they're healed. Life enhancement training is all about moving from a culture of coping to a culture of healing, as it says in the poster that I just showed you. So when there's hurts going on, this becomes an obsessive cycle to focus on my I perspective and small life. And I can start getting really bitchy. Any of us can. We can start complaining. We can start obsessing about our small life, and it just can keep enclosing and enclosing. And in fact, that's probably the way I'll draw it here, is that if you're not getting good attention, in other words, if you're not getting perspective beyond just this perspective of reality, this will what happen. Life will become hurting, right? You'll see like the life and the hurting will all become one and the same glob. So that's kind of the hurt glob that can take over our life, and then everything just becomes small L about my little life. Your life is important. It's extremely important. But what I'm showing you here is your life, and that's what the L.E.T program is training you to do, is to not just get caught in that pattern of thinking. So I guess the word really here is we're constantly going to be looking at rethinking and changing perspectives. We have three perspectives here: the I, the we, and the it. And that makes up the big whole reality of what we're calling, in a sense, is life. That gives us the big perspective, the big picture on what's going on, big life. And why? Because we need it, and we already use it, and we already are gifted. Very important term I mentioned last night, that as I give this program as a gift, we are gifted. Every one of us is gifted with life. And when we get into this small circle over here of this mess, when our hurts start to become life and we can't really see life beyond all our hurts and the painful memories that we have, then we can't see those other perspectives. We're only going to start seeing and obsessing on this one. And that's the moment that you actually are starting to undercut your support from big life. Got it? I mean, you know, some people in AA, for example, in their recovery movement, they call big life the God that you understand, or the spirit that you understand, the greater other. There are many terms for this. Some people call it nature itself, or creation herself. Lots of terms, but in this program, I'm just going to call it big life. And that's why the program is called Life Enhancement Training. You can see big life, it's basically saying here, big life is going to support you. It's going to support your small life. Well, it already is. But what's the problem is when we're hurting and we get all obsessed about our problems, we forget. We forget the connection. Okay? We forget that connection. And we forget that these three perspectives are what we have to do to stay in balance. There's that key term. Okay, that's what I was teaching last night. And that's the balance over here, right? Of all these eyes being listened to and attended to. Each is important, each unique. And then I also said, and this program is not just about you, you know, taking care of yourself and being who you want to be and expressing yourself and all those wonderful things. Because I do say, I want you to be yourself in this course. Absolutely, I do. And then what you realize is that as soon as I say, I want you to be yourself in this course, then you start to realize, oh, but I'm connected to that I, and I'm connected to that I, and I'm connected to, and then I'm connected to all of what's going on here. So let me just take a moment. I'm going to get back to these three perspectives of balance. I'm going to get to why I use the word training. Enhancement is sort of obvious. We're here to enhance, and by that I mean expand. Okay, that's the other word for this. Enhance, expand. That means expanding from this smaller perspective to finding this core so that I will have at least feedback and support, right? Keyword from big life and the other two perspectives, which is the we and the it. So let me get to training for a minute, because in terms of how I had us sitting and what we were doing last night as activities, and this would be in all the courses, all the classes that I teach, is to, the word I actually prefer to use, but it's just a little complex from, that's a little complex, is in training. Entrainment, it's a word you can look up if you want. It's an interesting one. And it really means coming together. And the classic, one of the examples of many researchers many years ago came up to understand is that if you put a group of women together and they live together, for example, in a kibbutz or in another kind of community, and it's a quite close-knit community, and this probably happened in a lot of our tribal communities, is there was a tendency that they noticed is that the woman's menstrual cycle when they first came would be very different because they're in different environments, but when they came into the same environment, they started in training. And entrainment means is they started coming together, and there was something biological going on where they actually were starting to have a very similar cycle of menstruation, the timing. So they actually readjusted in this very primal biological way. And I believe that happens with human beings, is that we will, if we come into this trusting and caring space together, as the Course is itself, the L.E.T program is itself, is an entraining of care. And some people might call that love. And it's also basically becoming and belonging and synchronizing, so that we actually are assisting each other even without knowing it. Just kind of like the menstrual cycle was attuning, and the women were more attuning in their mood and their sensitivity to each other because of the changes in mood with their cycling, and that actually built more empathy in the community. And that's my argument as well, is that the whole sort of process here in some ways is building a collective empathy. Some might call that compassion and so on. We can use many words. In the course, in the training, I'm going to really be specific about, well, what does that mean? To give love, to be in love, to care, right? The big C, to care. And we're going to have to look at how does care, this good stuff of entrainment that can happen when we're together and working together, both when we're physically present and even non-present in other sort of really subtle fields, we start to become part of the same field of care. And that's what I'm looking forward to in the training here, that you feel cared for even when you're not with those people, because you feel a connection to them. And the reason you feel a connection is because you're not just caught in this cycling here of the small life. You're actually tapping in to here. And so this is kind of what I'm circling here as a point of the entrainment where it happens. It has to happen through changing perspectives and not just being in the one, okay? Rethinking through, changing perspectives. And of course, I'm going to give you in this course in detail, and I will talk about it briefly today, there are technologies of compassion and empathy and rethinking to move into this more space of care. Okay, so there's technologies of how to do that, and one is attention. So we'll get back in a sec. So that's entrainment. So that's really what we're doing, using the big life and to support our small life, and bringing those big and small life into entrainment. Yeah, big life. Nobody created big life, right? Like, life is the gift. It came from the creation, the creator. It's not yours, it's not mine, it's not mine. So you see, all of that me, mine stuff, that's related to big life, but it is not big life. It's small life. And that's a distinction that I make in this course. And it's like, when we start making small life our whole universe, and then we start to think in that pain, if that's not getting attention, if it's not in training with connection to bigger perspectives, both the we perspective and the it perspective, if it's only in training, in a sense, on its own self, that's what we call narcissism or self-centeredness, right? And then the other more condemning word is selfishness. But really, it's just a self-centeredness. A person is putting the center of their life here as the only perspective on everything. Well, it's not the only perspective on everything, is what I'm going to show. Why? Duh, right here is the larger perspective and center. So that becomes the center right here. See what I'm doing? So that's what we're trying to shift from this occupation to connect with that. And because that'll connect us to much bigger perspectives. Changing perspectives is potentially, it's both restorative to health and it's transformative to growth. You will become, quote, a bigger, expanded person, a life enhanced person. Capital Life Enhanced person. Interesting, eh? Small life person and a capital life, big life person. So there's some people that you've met, and they're like bigger than life, right? And some of those people aren't necessarily always healthy. You can be bigger than life, like some leaders and dictators. They're bigger than life, but that doesn't mean they're healthy. So we're interested in this program of getting a bigger than life sense of self and perspective, and that will come through the other two perspectives. So let me go back to those. Just very briefly, we perspective, I won't focus on. And again, this is a very short video, just reinforcing the concepts of balance. And the balancing is right through this, recreating a new center. When you get over here, you are off center. You're off in your whole patterns of how your habits, your conditioning, your addiction processes, and so on, your hurting, how you cope with it, gets off centered. Okay, that's really a term I'll use a lot. And then I'm going to talk about how do we get back on center, which is this perspective here of big life. All right, so that's the challenge. And we're going to get off. We're going to get off, and then we're going to get on. We're going to get off. We're going to get on. Get off and on. No big, dumping on ourselves, getting all down ourselves because we're off. It's just recognize we're off. Time to get back on. And this program, L.E.T, is going to retrain you and build an entrainment that'll get easier and easier for you to get to back to the big life perspective. So the simple one in the course was, I said, it's just sitting in a circle, and we all of a sudden see we're in a we. And then I said, hey, we're all on the same boat. That's what the circle represents, right? That's what this circle here represents. We're all on the same boat. The better that you can do, that I will do, is because the better my partner will do, the partner on this side, my partner on this side. So are we becoming friends? Is that what this program's about? No, it's not about making friends. If you make friends, that's a bonus. If you have friends that are there, that's a bonus. That is not what L.E.T is about. It's about building. I didn't use this word last night, but I really want to use it. It's about building allies. Okay? Very crucial to remember that. People are often looking for friendships because they're lonely, right? You're lonely when you're hanging over here. The big L, lonely. And that's the isolation, the alienation, and we become even desperate to connect and build friends. And so I'm not going to let desperation control this course. I'm not going to let socializing control this course. This course is about building allies. Very important. Why? Because allies remember what the task is. The task, yes, is care of being an ally. You are going to care. But that's the only part. The ally is here to say, oh, you're off. I'm going to help you get on. Right? Because that's the goal, is when you're off, to get on. And that's what your allies are for. That's what an AA is so successful. Any support groups are very successful if they keep to the notion of building allies. When people start to become friends in those support groups, often the support, the real good care, the real help can actually break down. Not always, but often. And that's why often a lot of these programs say it's not about building friendships, it's about building allies. And then that's what I would call a more conditional relationship. Yeah, it's not a friendship. It's not unconditional. I'm not here to be there for you in this training every moment and be your friend. I'm here to be your ally. Won't repeat that. I know I can start lecturing on that. It's just so important. All right, so let's finish off this, and I'll end the video pretty quick here. So the most important thing then, which I didn't talk about, is the it perspective, and that's the life perspective itself. And that's when you can actually take, with practice, get out of your I, even go beyond the we of this group, and you go into the perspective of the world, right? The universe, the cosmos, life itself, this big sphere of what is the largest perspective, is really the it perspective. And that's when you can actually start thinking for, well, what would the source, and some people, what would God want? What would the source want? What would nature want? And how do you know that? Well, it might be as simple as I said. You might just go out and pet a cat and all of a sudden realize, wow, this is like I'm touching life. I'm with life right now. And life wants goodness. Life wants to live. And not only life wants to live, life is living, right? And so I said, just breathing air is taking the perspective of the it. For a moment, you just take the air in and just let it become you, because the air is becoming you. You are the air in a way, right? It's becoming you because it mixes with you. It goes into your cells. And that's the beginning of building more and more connection to a larger sphere of life. And that you are supported. And so what does that mean? If you are supported by big life, right, up here, big life, that means that there's a basic goodness in the universe. And I can tell you, when you're over here in the suffering, right, of the small life sphere, it can start to feel like there's a basic godness. Yeah, it can. Absolutely, it can. And my experience in all programs of, good healing and good recovery, of this restorative path to health, transformative growth and development, and I'll eventually call that, I'm not going to go into it in this video, the path of fearlessness. That will come because you're getting in touch. And this really is a key in all programs that I know of, fundamentally, any kind of process of growth and development, healing, therapy, is you have to get back in touch with basic goodness. And that's not just about being positive and positive thinking, positive attitude. That can be part of it, but that is not the fundamental part of this program. The fundamental part of this program is actually going to be about healing, and I'll repeat that many, many times. Okay, I think this is a good way to start for now, and all I will end with is the last concept I mentioned, which is process. You might remember that from last night, and others who are tuning into this, is that I'm interested in getting us not to focus so much on the goals, the objectives, the task at hand, but to look at the process of self-correction, the process in how big life is actually always calling to you, always attempting to bring you back into balance. And so I used that exercise last night, stand on one foot, lift up your other foot. And of course, then when people would sometimes tumble and have to put their other foot down, they would say things like, oh, I can't do it, oh, I'm not very good at this. And I said, oh no, you're actually perfect at this. That's big life calling you to put your other foot down, because that is your balance. You're a two-footed creature. That's your fundamental nature and design. And so that is balancing. And it's interesting, if you don't pay attention to that, right? The process of the correction, of the process of the big life actually supporting you and saying, no, this is a better way to go. This is how you're built. You'll be more stable. Then if you only focus on the task of lifting up, and, oh, I got to balance because you said to balance, and we're supposed to balance, then you can always look at failure. You'll look at that, putting the second foot down, as failure, as a fall. And I'm going, well, it actually could be, and this is a metaphor, right? A teaching metaphor. It could actually be that you're actually self-correcting, because that actually is where big nature, big life is pulling you to be in tune and in train with big life, and not get off on your small life too much. Small life's great. That's what makes us unique and creative. But when you put small life together with hurting, this hurting complex over here, and we're hurting too much because we're not healing enough. Okay, simple message. Look forward to you watching this video, and again, check out the L.E.T video. I'll put a link below this video that you can go back to the original introduction to the whole program, first aid, second aid, third aid, and what that means in the L.E.T program. And then from here, what we go is the Dover group. We're going to make personal connections. I'm going to email people. I want to have personal contact with people. I want to let them know that I am the support for them ongoing with consistency. because everyone who comes into the program may not be a consistent ally. It takes time to learn how to be a good ally. So I will be that, quote, good ally, consistent there to then help connect you to and help train these other allies so that we'll all get support, including me. I will even get to the point where I can work with some allies to get the attention I need on my growth and liberation from all the, not only the hurts in life, but the injustices. And that's what's called third aid in this program. Yes, that even has a political component. All right, I think that's it. Let's keep in contact and connection. And again, feel free to email me if you want to talk about or have questions about all this. It's r.michaelfisher, Michael spelled with an AE, and 52, r.michaelfisher52@gmail.com. Thanks very much. I think we're ready to move on, and glad to share this with you. Okay, bye now.